Hello ladies and gentlemen, and I will apologise to the people I promised this video to a long time ago, many weeks ago, and it is trying to help troubleshoot some of the reasons you get this effect. So if you watch really carefully that LED light reflection, you can see how the edges aren't sharp. This Opal has got a little bit of a wavy surface on it, so it's not a perfect finish. And this can happen for a number of reasons, and we'll get into that today so that some of you can get over that little hurdle. You can see, I mean, it's got a great polish, but the finish on it is not great. Just that little bit of waviness. And it's really what you don't want to see. It's not as bad as something like this. So it's not as bad as this, where you can see with the light here, there's sections here that I've missed. This is a really old stone that I did a while back. You can see that little scratch there I should have got rid of. I didn't care so much because it's already so heavily crazed and some of those lines are around the crazed areas. But you can see there's heaps of these little pits. This one's simple. This one you just got to go back grits. This, I think I would start all over again at the 280 Nova until they were gone. Because that looks like I used the electroplated burrs and they've left quite a bit of damage behind. So that one's all the way back to the 280 Novas. And fix it until all of that and this little waviness disappears. So this is a little bit of that waviness as well. Actually, it might even be better to explain it with this one. So you can see here, especially up here, there's a lot of that wavy edge on the light reflection. It can be from a number of things. So the first thing I always check is the collet in your flex shaft. If you can look carefully just here, you can see the edge has this really sharp, jagged part to it, so I can catch my finger on that, and if I'm not careful I'll probably cut my finger, and you can see how this one has basically been chewed away at. What that does is when you're inserting your bit, it's got room to wiggle, and that little wiggle causes just a tiny little vibration. You might not even really see it. I see it on camera a lot. If it's really obvious I'll pick it up with my eye, but I see it a lot on camera better than I do actually when it's in my hands and happening. So this just basically means you've got to replace it. There's no reconditioning of this that you can do. You could maybe widen the entire thing so that's even and then the pinch will be even, but what'll end up happening is you won't actually get the pinch and you won't be able to lock your burr in. First thing to do, because it's quick and easy, is just to take your collet out and just feel the edge, and if it's starting to catch, you know it's deformed. These brass ones last not that long. If you're doing carving every day, they will burn out. You just can't prevent it. It's just a soft material. You've got these are all stainless steel. It's always going to lose that fight. But it is quite easy to just buy yourself something like this. So a collet nut kit. So this has a fresh nut on it and a whole pack of all the different size collets. And these ones are quite nice, the stainless steel ones. These were gifted to me, and at a really good time because I need to replace a few. Now another issue can be your actual flex shaft itself. If you've got a really cheap one and it's got a lot of movement, a lot of wiggle backwards and forwards here, so this is, even the nut will wiggle, it's not just the collet, the whole unit wiggles, that's gonna also be a bit of a problem. This one's not so bad, but I can still get it to do a little bit of a wiggle if I force it to. Especially when it's not under tension. When it's under tension, it does seem to kind of rectify itself. But I've also talked about in a previous video sometimes that I have to hold my finger up against it to stop it from doing that. So, and that's getting worse over time. So there's something wearing out on the inside of the handpiece and it's widening the hole, maybe even unevenly. So this wiggle is getting worse and worse over time, which makes it hard to avoid those kind of wavy ripples that you see on the face by keeping an eye on that light glare. So that's option 2. Now option 3, this one confused me for a long time, and it took me a lot of trial and error in the last couple of weeks to kind of figure out what it was because I couldn't replicate it. It's when everything is perfect, all your equipment is fine, but there's still something causing a bit of a wavy pattern at the end. And I found out what it was by switching over to newer Nova burrs. So you can see here the mold line. Now this Nova burr, you wouldn't think about it when it's new, or at least I didn't. But the way they're created, this isn't always perfect. Like this isn't always center. So you can have patches that don't get worn, and you can see it on this one. This one's not been used too much, and the pinks wear out a lot slower than the rest. But you can still see there's a huge line here, and then a section of untouched, basically, Nova resin. Here it's not so bad. This is what you want to see. If I get one of my more worn pieces, so here's a more worn 280 grit, you can see that it doesn't have that issue. So you don't have any unevenness. It's kind of evened itself up over time. But if you're using new Novas, you actually do sometimes need to wear them in a little bit. It's not a lot. It's only a tiny amount. Like if I look at this other rose one, that's all you need to do. You just need to wear it until it starts evenly kind of hitting the entire surface. This one's still got a bit to go because it wears so slowly. But it's managed to trap a bit of silica dust in there, and that's made it a bit better. But this is what you want to see prior to actually getting good finishes on stones. This one is still a little bit new. It's getting there, but you can get some wavy lines because of that. So definitely, if you're having these problems and you're a pretty experienced carver, you can normally get a really good finish on stones. Make sure you check the Nova burrs that you've got in case you've got any imperfections in it, or maybe you've gouged a certain section of it which isn't producing very good stones. Or it could just be that you've started a new kit and they're just taking a while to wear in. If you do want a way to wear them in, just get yourself a scrap piece of opal, something like this, just a bit of potch, and just rub that over the top. Just spin it up and just do that for a couple minutes on each of them, and you'll be perfectly fine. I managed to replicate the waves and get rid of the waves just by doing that. So it was all about that new burr and it just having artifacts of its molding process. And that just creates a little bit of fluctuation as it's going around, and it's enough to cause that rippling. Future Roy, just rudely interjecting myself, if you find that the burr is kind of not sitting right and a little bit off center, just loosen slightly, not too much, and then give your burr a little bit of a quarter twist in one direction or the other, and then reassemble. It can just sometimes just sit awkwardly on the collet. It doesn't take much for it to be off, so just a little bit off, give it a turn, put it back on, spin it up, have a look at the edges, see if they're still doing that weird wobbly dance, and if not, you've got that problem solved as well. That can also cause the little rippling effect on the surface. So keep an eye on that. Hopefully that helps. If you've got little wavy ripples in your reflection, make sure you check those things. Check your collet, make sure it's not worn. Check your flex shaft, make sure it's not wobbling. And check your Nova burrs, make sure that they are not fresh. The new ones, even though it sounds great to use them, they do actually need to be worn in just slightly. Not much, you don't want to overwear them, but you just need to wear them in slightly. And that should solve the majority of your issues. If you have any other issues like that, it's very common amongst all of us. Don't be too embarrassed to send me a message or whatever. We find a whole heap of issues like this, and yeah, most of them are quite easy to solve, but until you've actually experienced it or solved it yourself, it can be a bit confusing. So I'm happy to clear that up. I've seen a lot of this stuff, so be sure to contact me however you want, and yeah, we can sort that kind of stuff out. And if it's common enough, I'll make a video on it, so you can help everyone else out by just asking that simple question. But that's enough for now. I will see you in the next video where I'll be carving a little boulder stone if everything goes well.